Yes. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. So, welcome. Heading into this be the fourth staging of Oshane Bryant Corner. So, my focus for today is on the topic: get a degree or start a business. And I gather that this should be or should make for an interesting discussion. Uh, Essentially, it more likely will be a debatable one. It also can be considered as a controversial one. But in essence, still, you know, especially speaking from a point of view that would be, firsthand, in addition to what it is that I will say is going to come from a perspective that I will believe is one that is reflecting what it is that I will see um, in Jamaica at the same time, across different countries. What it is that I basically can gather is that this is definitely a topic that many individuals are within themselves at the very least asking, should I get a degree or should I start a business? Many people I speak with, they would echo that they would like to start a business. And similarly, there may be many individuals whom I'll come across who would indicate that they are, uh, you know, having the interest to get a degree. So specifically, I just want to mention that there is no right or wrong in what it is I'm discussing here. You know, both, I would say, directions are both ultimate outcomes are both, in my view, a definite yes. What it is that I'm just basically doing is trying to present a degree of uh, thought, insight that can be beneficial to secondary students or secondary level students coming up, tertiary level students who are basically undergrads. Um, we can talk about professionals who can also benefit from this. We can speak on academics, so whether or not you have an advanced degree, yes or no, this is also relevant to you. And just the same individuals who more than likely have already started a business venture, whether it be formal or informal. All of these segments I've mentioned are individuals who can directly benefit from what it is that I'm talking about here. So, in terms of the focus, I'm going to be obviously discussing from perspectives as well as, from insights that I can also apply using my point of view. Uh, who is uh, the whole discussion in terms of the degree and business for? That is definitely what it is that I'm going to be coming from. So, what is a degree? What are the levels of a degree? What is a business? Pros of a degree? Um, you know, Pros of a business, cons of starting a business, uh, why getting a degree is more than likely something that should be considered, motivational drivers, problems slash threats, today and future slash value of a degree versus business. And my thought on the two at the end of the discussion, based on what it is I see today and what I can foresee. Yes, Shy King platform. Yes, healings. So, without wasting any time, I'm basically going to go straight into it. So, a degree. So, I just want to mention this now. When I speak on degree, I'm not necessarily making reference to the education, speaking about the product. So when you look at, say, for example, when you go to school and you finish with a school leaving certificate, as an example, that's the product. You know, that's the representation of, the outcome or what it is that you would have invested in doing. So, the degree, what are the pros of the degree? Well, obviously, in pursuing a degree, you will be exposed to a curriculum, you will be receiving education, And in so doing, that is definitely a pro. You get education. Similar to that, a degree gives you access to a network. So you can also, pretty much link that up to social ascension, or the opportunity for you to then break through certain social barriers. That's another pro of having a degree. um, Career, you get a degree, it opens the door for you to you know have the benefit of a career, specific area professionally that you would like to specialize in, focus in, and spend the most of your productive years doing. So the degree, the paper can provide that for you. uh, Similarly speaking, in this respect, the degree can also pose as an asset, right? So you having your degree gives you the it operates as a vehicle for you to be able to have that, in mention of the social ascension, financial reward as well. So obviously you can get paid for the value you may offer, whether it be through an organization, whether it be through self-employed, as two prime examples. So definitely degree is an asset in that respect. And similar, as I just mentioned a while ago, financial reward, that too is another pro. So you get a degree, it should be a case that you can say, you know what, yeah man, you can start earn, so that you can be able to enjoy a better state of life. Those are just some of the many pros of having a degree. Now, similarly, let's talk about the pros of having a business. First thing that comes off the top of my head is it functions as an asset. So, as I would have described an asset for the degree, similarly, you have your business, it's an asset, it is a vehicle you may use to pretty much, pay for certain kind of opportunities, or certain kind of, I will use the word vehicles again, that you can be able to, leap into other areas of your life that would promote a degree of satisfaction. So, you can use the business in a way where you can sell your business. So in that respect, it's an asset. Similarly speaking, the business can function as that vehicle whereby money is always coming in. So, yeah. All right. Yes, shy. Yeah, man, I see you. So I replied. Try to make sure that we try to keep the conversations in a respectable manner, please, and thanks. Maxine, yeah, man, big up. Right. So yeah, man. So as said a while ago, you have your business. Your business basically can be that vehicle you can use to be able to purchase other avenues to assist you with moving forward in your life. So you can think about the business as that thing you can use as collateral if you want to take out a loan, as an example. Obviously, that will speak to the cash flow and other specifics of that. Now, to go too much into that yet. But similar to that, you have your business, you know that from the business is functioning, money keeps coming in. And that's what makes the business an asset. So that is definitely a pro, you know. Um, in terms of the business as well, another pro of the business, that the business also gives you the opportunity to learn. So by having your business, you know for a fact you're going to be educated. And the way that you're being educated is going to be slightly different than when you're sitting in a classroom pursuing your degree program, right? Think of it as, real world education, business education does for you. Um, then no, obviously network as well. You have a business, it opens the door for you to penetrate network, social networks, just as I would have mentioned for the degree. Financial freedom, well, that's with a question sign. Similar with a degree, you're not guaranteed financial freedom once you have your business. So, that is still something that you have to put with a question mark. But if you do manage to experience financial freedom, then definitely that is something you can call on. So those are pros of both the degree as well as the business. Now let's talk about the cons to a degree. Um, Cons for a degree, we're looking at it from an angle of time usage. So you're talking about, pursuing a degree program. You have to use time to be able to pursue the degree program. And you know, other people will say you're investing time. Well, it's not always going to be the case all the time. You know, either way you take it, the bottom line is you must insert time to be able to get a degree at the end of the day. And you should know this, that time is a finite resource. So you know, whatever time you give, you never get that back, right? So either way you take it, you know, you're going today. If it's a 1 year program, 1 year down the road, you're 1 year older, right? So that's definitely something that can still be seen as a con in terms of the time factor. uh, Another con would more likely be cost. You know, you're going to get yourself to go into a degree program, then you have to think about upfront costs. You know, so that is another factor, and similar to that, we talk about debt, right? Many people who would then pursue their degree program, they can experience debt, and likewise, you're more than likely have to consider that you're going to start your degree program. There is no guarantee that there will be jobs. There's no guarantee that you basically would even have the opportunity to add value in what it is that you would have pursued your degree program in, because of the reality that more than likely what it is that is now the environment, in terms of the work environment, it has now somewhat shifted. And in that respect, you know, it may be a case that the demand factor for the degree is not the same relative to when you were just going to get yourself into the degree program. So those are definitely some key cons that I will just highlight, not exhaustive. And now I'm going to also mention, you know, cons of starting a business. So just as is the case for degree, when you start a business, there is no proven success. Uh, I would say trail, or this is the rubric you should follow to experience success in business. And that is obviously a con, because basically you're going to more than likely have to invest time, invest energy, and invest financial resources into starting a business. And in essence, that is me saying that you're going to have to take those risks. And in taking those risks, there is no form of guarantee that you will get a return on what it is that you are investing. So that more than likely is why I would say that definitely uh, these are some cons of starting a business. Similar to that, you know, we talk about the reality that stress, you know, negative stress is a reality when it comes to you considering to start a business. So it is not, don't get you know, this thought that the business are going to be high. There's going to be a lot of significant lows, especially when you're trying to get it off the ground. And because you're investing so much, you know, it can be draining. And when you see that, say for example, you're not getting any form of return based on how much you give, then that in and of itself can become very stressful. So business can be very stressful in that respect, and that is basically a drawback in terms of starting a business or running a business. Similar to that is no market for the business, or a small market for the business, and these two will also link up into the whole element of no product profitability. Right. So again, you know, you go forward with creating a business, you know, investing in your business, getting the education, if you will, and all the necessary things you need to get to formally register your business, or even informally get your business going. And when all is said and done, you know, a month down the road, 3 months down the road, there is no money coming in. Pretty much no one is interested in what it is that you have to offer. And in that respect, you know, you have really no business venture. You know, that is definitely a con. Um, you know, I can't fully cite some of the recent stats, but you know, in Jamaica's case now, you know, they're in recent time, like within the last 5 to 10 years, you know, the Companies Office of Jamaica would have mentioned that, you know, you would have had a significant number of businesses closing in a given year versus opening. You know, that is a reflection of really and truly how hard it is to, you know, not just start a business, because starting it is very easy in my view, but really and truly to ensure that the business can even live for 1 year. You know, that is a reality. So a lot of businesses open, a lot of businesses close day in, day out. and some of that is attributed to the reality that probably the business is not being profitable, and likewise, more than likely, there is no market in that respect for the business. So these are just some of the cons or the disadvantages of basically talking about starting a business. Let me see. Yolanda, yes, very interesting and relevant topic that many persons are facing now. The economic climate now makes the decisions far more difficult. Indeed, indeed, I intend to even go even further in that as well. So definitely, indeed. So now let's talk a bit about the degree in terms of why, in my view, you should consider getting it. And I would just like to talk about that a bit, because if you are keeping up with what it is that you will see circulating, let's just say even on social media, you will hear that, let's just say, AI is the future. With AI, it it solves many problems for businesses, in the sense where you know um, businesses would have had challenges, human resource challenges, if you will, getting the skilled personnel to fill certain roles in the organization, and by having AI now, it is satisfying that gap. But likewise, AI is also posing a threat to uh, the future of a country or the future of a society, in a sense where if there are less jobs, if you will, within certain sectors or within certain industries, then in essence it means therefore that it is highly likely that you would have a shifting that is required for the economy, so that the economy can stay afloat. And or if the economy doesn't shift accordingly, then you can have many people whose skills are obsolete, and in essence the unemployment rate can be very high, right? That is definitely something that should be looked at. And this is why when we look at it within the context of a degree, you know uh, I would say the reason why it is still relevant and will always be relevant is because there are certain skills that you learn or that you grasp when you are pursuing what you should pursue for the degree. So let's just say, for example, they will say that you are not taught to get your degree, you read for your degree. The skill set of reading, in my view, right about now, is even more so significant and relevant, because I can tell you, especially when it comes to this social media, many people don't take the time to read. We have we are seeing where we are becoming somewhat trained to consume content within a shortened uh, time period. So let's just say, for example, 10-second reel, 15-second reel, that kind of a thing. And for many people as well, they're of the view that if anything is longer than that, that they cannot commit, or they should not commit, because information is quick and it's on their fingertips. But just the same, not all information you can grasp and consume, and should be able to consume within a 10-second period, if you will. And when you are doing research, real proper research, you will realize that a 10-second commitment is not even a drop in the bucket. That is a holy grail of relevance in terms of pursuing your degree program, in my view. And that is something where even when AI takes over, if you will, you know, people who read for their programs, whichever program it may be, and they have the capacity to transfer skills in the context of being able to use the ability to conduct research, to be able to, I would say, be fully objective in their reasoning, in their arguments, at the very minimum, will always present them with opportunities to earn. It don't matter, because it means therefore that you will be able to identify gaps and be able to get yourself moving into certain kind of directions that other people won't be able to do, because he or she is more so trained to just consume and gobble up what is before them in a 10-second format, or whatever the AI can push to you. Just speaking about AI, remember that AI at the end of the day is trained specific to the information that AI is presented with. So AI depends on the source of information to continue to build up its engine. So in essence, AI will still need the people whom are the resourceful people, the people whom have the knowledge, and you are able to get that holy grail of knowledge once you have gotten yourself committed to the rigors of that degree program. So, that is definitely me saying that, no matter what, it is definitely a case where once it is within your capacity to get a degree program, you should, because of the reasons that I've highlighted a while ago. Um, so yes, I mentioned the knowledge, I mentioned, the skill sets that you can get. And as well, you also should take into consideration that by getting your degree program, as mentioned earlier, in terms of social uh, upward mobility, it's a case where you can have self-fulfillment, right? Okay, now, why should you start a business now? In essence, I have these points highlighted. One, start a business for financial freedom. Start a business to solve a problem or to satisfy a need. I'm just mentioning those two only. You know, um, Business at the end of the day is that tool that would allow you to be able to live the way how you would like to live. Once it's a case that you have gone through the phase of building up the foundation properly. Once that foundation is built properly, then it's like a snowball. That's what the business does, right? So that business, once you are able to have the business outlive you and scale, it pretty much can move in a way whereby it can continue to thrive. And that is the beauty about why you should start a business. Um, Similar to that now, you start a business to satisfy a need, right? You cannot experience profitability in business if it's a case where there is no one who is purchasing what it is that you have to offer, right? So, in that respect, making sure that you have something people need and you are also able to identify where those people are whom would be able to benefit from what it is that you have to offer, such as that product or service, then this is what it is that will keep business relevant, right? Those are key reasons why you should consider starting a business. So, making sure that you can identify the market, identify the needs in the market, identify whom are the persons who are supplying some form of service or product, satisfying a specific need, and how you are able to, I guess, fill the gaps and provide that value to the market. Those are key things that are going to always highlight the relevance of you running a business or starting a business, right? So, talking a bit now about some of the problems as I briefly mentioned. We have to look at the problems or threats of both getting a degree as well as a business, running a business in the context of today as well as the future, right? um as I would have said with everything relating to the degree, you give your time into you pursuing a degree. Let's just say you pursue a degree because this is something that you value, you love it, you're good at it, and at the same time you would like to have a future in it. Now, where the degree is concerned, you have to still take into consideration what are the threats to the degree program or to your outcome when it's a case that you do have your degree, right? So let me just use it as an example. My experience uh, coming from UE, and let's just say I have experienced the reality that my degree is geology, geography. See, even whilst going to university at the time, it's a case where I would have heard people ask the question, all right, what can you do with a geo degree? What can you do with a geography degree? Many people would have only thought about geographers, if you will, confined to the weather channel. Similar to that, you think about the geography, you think about the geo teacher. See? Or if you're thinking about geologists, people just will confine geologists to oil, exploration in Jamaica's context, bauxite, right? Or mining, that kind of a work. And what then no, I would have done, even when I'm going deeper in terms of where the opportunities where it comes to geography and geology in my context, you realize that boy, there isn't really that much opportunity out there. See, because you know many persons even back then would have been leaving UWI, both UWI Mona and UWI St. Augustine, uh, geo-based programs, and you're done with the geo-based programs. And the quickest thing that many people will do is to then move straight into a master's degree program or a PhD program. And I just even want to mention something about that as well, because there is a gross misconception, which is to say that boy, if you don't have your masters, if you will, if you don't have your PhD, if you will, in the specific area that you have your first degree in, that you do not have the necessary knowledge to be able to function uh, as the professional within that space. Uh, that is half truth, right? Because especially in geology is a practical based degree, and in essence, you have to go out into the field and you have to basically keep your eyes active. You have to basically keep yourself active with all of the new things that's happening in the industry. The industry is more so influenced by tech versus back in the 60s 70s, when you would have been going out into the field and just having to deal with physical mapping. Now it's a case where you can map without even have to have a map in the field, as an example. Now you can map the subsurface out in the sea without having to always think about you having to have certain kind of archaic equipment with you. It is now a case where you can just use technology, and that is basically why I'm saying that that's a threat in the sense where how you more like would have been trained back then versus now, there more than likely will be a gap. And that is why it is imperative that when it's a case that you're going to pursue a degree program, you are fully in keeping with what it is that is the future, but at the same time, you understand where the degree program is coming from so that you are not left behind. Yeah, you should always keep yourself reading and keep yourself fully in depth, not just doing what needs to be done to get the pass. You know what I mean? But yeah, going back to the whole reality about the geology and the geography, you know, I was never of the view that geology and geography is only confined to the classroom or to oil companies or that kind of a thing. Because at the very minimum, I would have seen, especially from my own exposure, that geo is in everything. Everything is geo. Zane. So pretty much we live in a world whereby we eat from the world. Saying when we go into thinking about eating food, the food comes from the earth, right? The same plants absorb their nutrients from the soil, right? So this is talking about the geobiosphere interaction. You understand me? I say, and then now you basically think about the fact that we eat those same plants, that same minerals, what we consider as micronutrients in nutrition or human nutrition, it basically would have been derived from geo. And because I knew that, that basically is what led to me creating what is now OB Fitness at the very minimum. Because OB Fitness is fusing all of the different elements, obviously my geo background, bio, fitness, etc., to create the kind of services and the kind of opportunities for the community to also be able to experience sustainability in terms of being able to lead a sustainable healthier lifestyle. you know that kind of thought process, me being able to operate the business in that kind of a way, is really due or should be credited as well to the fact that it started from a geo degree. Zane. So that's the reason why I'm also going to go back into it to say that, I cannot discredit a degree program, Zane, because the degree program, once you know what it is that you're doing and you keep yourself grounded in what it is that you should be doing and why you're doing it, it will help you to chart your way forward. And I want to also highlight that your path is your path. See? I can't tell you that when I was getting myself out, and I can say, because if you guys follow me, especially with the YouTube videos, you will see that there are some quite a number of geo-based content, see, and at the same time fitness-based content. And at the time when I decided to turn away from the earthquake unit of Jamaica, because I did have an internship experience with the earthquake unit of Jamaica after leaving UA at the time. Seeing that was grounded in my own internal belief that there is something more than just here. When I decided to turn down the opportunity of the Jamaica Defense Force as an officer, that was me being ingrained in my belief that there is more to that, just me just operating as an officer and collecting whatever kind of pay that needs to be received. I always was grounded in my spiritual sense that my purpose was more than that. You understand? And that is what led to me taking all the immense risk to go into starting the journey of being a trainer. And even back then, many people who would have known of me from Geo days would have been looking at me, and some of them would have uttered that, boy, it's a waste, because I turned down earthquake unit, I turned down going over into Canada and working on an oil related company, to pretty much just become a trainer. You know what I mean? And people don't really understand, that, at the end of the day for me, this was my path. So I had no problem in being viewed that way back then, back in 2012, because I knew that in 10 years, just give me 10 years, I'm gonna make it work. Let me just pause there. Um, Yolanda, yeah, very true. And we expected the geography persons to transition to becoming a meteorologist. Yeah. Or I said areas at a degree allowed it to migrate into that has changed significantly. Yep, the scope is much wider. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Like I said, but then I said, you know what, I just need 10 years, 10 years. And that was how my eyes were open and just viewing. So back then, when I'm at 23, I'm a fresh out of youth, I say, oh, all right, I have to push for that 10 years. Yeah. And, education wise, coming out of UA with, yes, the geo-based degree, having that experience at the earthquake unit of Jamaica, I then decided to move into getting my professional certification as a personal trainer. And even back then, because may I tell you this, you have to understand that if you do not have the capacity to always find a way, then it's going to be hard for you to be able to achieve the kind of life you want to achieve. It doesn't matter how much degree you have, it doesn't matter how much business you try to start. If you don't have it within you where you can be able to find a solution even when faced with some very challenging circumstances, then you will notice a life of a father. Long story short. Zane. But then I didn't have the money to go into getting my personal trainer certification. But through the moves that I made, it was a case whereby the money became available. And went to US, did the exam after I did a self-taught. So I taught myself everything that needed to be learned from the curriculum point of view, the professional personal trainer curriculum point of view. Then get the certification. And even after getting the certification, because back then I thought that getting the certification would mean automatically that I would have opportunities. Saying, so coming back here, I thought that it would just flow in terms of gyms and that kind of a thing. That never flowed, that it didn't follow. You know what I mean? So obviously that was a learning curve. And I had to just take the leap of faith and say, you know what, I'm gonna start everything on the UWI campus. That would have been where I had a penetration point. And the thought process was just to have one person. And once you have that one person, one will become two, two will become four, four will become eight, and so on. That was the thought process I had. So I was always driven to go through it for the long haul. And even when everybody said that, the degree, you wasted a degree and you basically, limiting yourself to the personal trainer, I always had that vision, and I trusted the vision, and I was willing to go through that deprivation within those time periods, knowing that it is training me for today. You understand? So here it is now, 10 years down the road, and at the very minimum, I can look at what OB Fitness as the business, or as, a life is, an entity that has people whom are also able to basically be able to live in a way that they can see themselves, having an improvement, not just in their physical fitness, but also in their capacity to be able to achieve and aspire for more within themselves. That in and of itself is what it is that I would say is the ultimate prize. So if it was a case that I did not have the experiences of the education, if it is a case I didn't have the experience of going through the degree program, if I didn't have the experience of having the hard times, if you will, and fully being grounded in the purpose behind it all, then obviously, today I would not necessarily be in the position where I can say, you know what, yes, um, definitely, OB fitness and having the degree program is or should be the way to go. So where you are concerned now, you know, it I will say to you, once you have the capacity to do both. Zane, at the end of the day, financial freedom, you are most likely to have that on a longevity point of view once you have your business. Zane, um, and that is because ultimately the business is the physical asset that you can be able to create, you can set it, and it can be able to, scale, within levels that you are not able to even control. That is the essence why the business should be something that you aspire to achieve, in having, in owning. Likewise, you not having the knowledge base specific for the business that you would like to go into is a very fast way for you to be able to experience decline in the business, or not even be able to experience any form of opportunity at all in the business. So, if getting the degree program, in terms of the technical skills, at the very minimum, is a significant requirement for the specific business that you're intending going into, then by all means go for the degree program as well. Because by doing that, at the very minimum, you have a better grasp of the more technical specs, and in addition to that, at least have some additional skill sets that can be transferable into the business you wish to pursue. All right, so they both go hand in hand. All right, obviously, economics or personal finances is something that you have to consider, and where you are in your life, you have to consider that as well. So at the end of the day, it comes back down to you. You know what I mean? It may be a case where you're more than likely just starting off life in the form of your tertiary degree as an undergrad, so you have a lot more time to really and truly take your time and get your and more than likely get the business going afterwards, if you will. Versus, let's just say, for example, you are someone now who is at the peak of your career in terms of the years, or even experiencing the latter years of your career, in terms of years where you're, say, for example, 40s, 50s, and you know that retirement is around the corner. And with retirement being around the corner, you now have to look at the the choice, going for that advanced degree, and doing so versus starting the business. Either way you take it, there is going to be risk between the two, because going for that advanced degree, as mentioned before, you're going to invest time into it, and in doing so, it's not even a guarantee that the investment of your time into getting that higher degree, let's just say that research based degree, is going to be something that is quantifiable within the short term, if you will, for you to be able to experience a return on your investment. And the same can be said for the business. So at the end of the day, it comes back down to you as an individual. I will not, I don't want to take it into me coming forward and saying that, oh yeah, you have to or you should do this, or you should do that. It comes back down to you as a person. Weigh your pros and cons specific to your reality, specific to what it is that you can commit to in terms of time, in terms of energy, and obviously what it is that you have as your asset base. If you have certain experience backing, as well as you have the relevant resources backing, then by all means you may have greater leverage in terms of being able to take certain risks. But if that is not your case, then you would have to ultimately um, decide how you're going to venture between the two. But if you can get the two, get the two. Get your degree, get your business. And if it's a case that you have to choose between the two of them, specific to the specific phase you're at in your life, then if you're in the younger years, get a degree. Once you can do what you need to do, get a degree. I mean, if you don't have the money and you don't have anything going for you, then you're more likely going to be forced to start a business, and then you get a degree after. And then, latter years, it may be that you have to get your business going, so that at least you know that once you hit retirement years, your business should have some legs on, and you should be able to function. So that is basically the dynamic of it all. None of the two is better than the other, but you should understand that once you invest your time into either one, there is ultimate risk. And there is a lot of changes happening outside of when you pursue your degree versus when you pursue your business. And nothing that is happening around you is going to wait on you. Everything is changing so rapid, especially with tech. It's changing so rapid. You're going today and you come back out next year and you realize that the world has changed so much that what you thought would have been the thing that will dominate is not going to happen. And that's why we say that in business they say you need to just move fast and pivot quick, because we don't think about trying to be perfect in business. Never ever think about being perfect. You just want to ensure that what it is that you're able to do can function, and you keep on improving it as you go along. That's one of the key secrets about the business landscape. It's not about trying to be perfect. So I've come across a couple of persons, well, when I ask them why they don't start their business, some of them will say, boy, they not have the money, or they don't really have everything fully thought out, or that kind of a thing. If that is you, you will never get it done. You will never be in a position where you have the full money. You'll never be in a position where you know every single thing. Never. It doesn't matter how much years you have studied for the thing. You could have all the PhD you have, you will never have it. You have to take the step and just move forward. And as you move forward, you continue to improve the process. You continue to work on it. That's the reason why they say that business owners are people who are in business. They don't really have a 9 to 5. You know, you will see, or you will hear that many people who are trying to get their business off the ground, or even have a successful business after years, may still be somewhat working around the clock, because at the end of the day, it does take all that out of you. You have to really be fully aware of everything that's happening. So, the founder of the business may not necessarily be the specialist in all areas, but the founder more than likely will be exposed to all areas, will be exposed to the finances, will be exposed to the human resources, will be exposed to the actual technical skill set. You know what I mean? Will be exposed to the legal side. There's so much you have to be exposed to when you think about starting a business. It is crazy. And in essence as well too, you know the same business you're in, like I said before, the industry can just change the way how you do business very quickly, because the same people who would have been working with you are same people who would have been your clientele. you know their lives also have been adjusted because of some shock or some stress. So in Jamaica's context, the recent one again is Melissa. Look at what Melissa has done to a significant segment of the population in terms of creating that significant financial strain on their businesses or on their economic standard of living. In so doing, it means that whichever business would have depended on those said segment of the market, have to now pivot their business model, because of that shock. All of these things are things that you as the business founder have to make sure that you're on top of. You know what I mean? And if you're going to be pursuing a degree, these are things you need to be paying attention to. So, you know, um, don't be just focused on doing what needs to be done to get by. Because at the end of the day, the people who are able to see much more than what the other person can see in front of them, and the people who are able to really and truly, provide a degree of a wider scope of insight, are the people who will be greatly cherished, in my view, for years to come. Yeah. So that's where I am. I've approached the end of this discussion. I hope that at the end of the day, this discussion can be one, or what it is I've shared can be one that can have relevance for the long term. Obviously, there will be segments of what it is I've discussed here that I will make as shortened versions. But yeah, at the end of it all, this is the corner, and we look forward to keep it going again next week. So thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you again next week. Take care.